You ready?
Welcome to Pardon My Hunch, the show about the real decisions we make in business and in life and the gut instincts we trust or wish we hadn't ignored. As always, this show is brought to you by the Vibe Method, which is a process that we use and teach innovators and marketers to help them nail a unique customer story and prove it will sell before they ever build a scale or launch. To find out more about how we can help you nail a killer ride for an idea or for your brand before going live, you can go to gohunch.com. But now let's get on with the show. Today we have Reid Carr with us from sunny San Diego. Had to say it. Of course it's sunny, right?
It is.
Welcome, Reid.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, Tara.
Yeah. So, Reid, you're the CEO and executive creative director at your own agency that you founded, the Red Door Interactive, which has had a 24-year run, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
impressive.
We're
So
ending
I
the
can imagine.
25. That's right.
Yeah, you have a party or do some thing.
You better start planning that, right?
Yeah.
It comes up fast, doesn't it?
It's a milestone. I mean, I can't believe I've been in my sixth year. I feel like it was 5 minutes ago I decided to do this crazy thing. So gosh, I can imagine it's been a journey and a ride.
It has
Like
been.
we chatted earlier, are changing, as we all know. It's not a new news, right? Like things are rapidly
Yep.
changing. As you know, my goal is real talk, collecting stories from people who've been in it, and by in it, I mean just about anything when it comes to making calls and decisions in business, which is life, right? It's like we
Yep.
were talking sports earlier. Sports is life.
Yeah.
Um, and I come from a background of, providing the rigor and the ammunition for making those decisions, only for years to realize we were often putting instincts on the back burner and focusing more on the data. And, I've come kind of full circle. And so I've realized that being a lifelong marketing researcher, what really gets people jazzed up when they're trying to make a decision is when you give them an example of not, like I was saying earlier, like, I know you're trying to launch a cookie and here's what another cookie brand did. No, it's like how someone else figured something out, got around a constraint, made a decision, how they executed, how they went to market, all the things. And it's like it's this instant clarity washes over people. And they hear stories that I share. And oftentimes I've not even been involved in that story. It's like I'm sharing it from someone else's perspective, which is why I'm doing this. And I'll stop talking because I have a question for you. We'll see where this goes, right? But it's the way I always open, which is, if you think back on this journey, be with Red Door, could be beyond, on the side, all the things. But if there's a moment in that career, in your career, I'm sorry, in your business career, same thing, in your journey where you can, you've had you felt a pull, you've had instincts or hunch about something and you went with it, or maybe you saw the red flag, ignored it, and what happened after? What comes to mind?
Yeah.
You think
Well,
about.
there's so many stories that kind of go through the iterations of the journey. I think starting the business in the first place is there's a lot of things. I tell a lot of people, entrepreneurs, to really think through. You can do all the math and all the stuff that you really want that says what's the total addressable market, or what's the cost of goods, or any of this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, what's the problem? Like, what's that problem you see that you feel like you wish was solved, and really starting with that, because it gives you a sense of purpose, and then you can kind of play around with, does this make sense at a financial model, and things like that. So I think when starting Red Door, I remember seeing, it's working on, a lot of digital components. It was the beginning of the dot-com boom. And you're starting to see things, for example, that just didn't feel right. And that what didn't feel right to me was an example where, seeing search, and you could look at log file analysis before analytics, and you'd see all this search traffic coming in on a website or something. And the search person who's focused on search engine optimization, they're like, look at me, I'm killing it. Look how great of a job I'm doing. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, we're spending all this money on, TV ads, and we're spending all this money on and this was before you really knew brand, non-brand search or stuff like that. It was just all this traffic coming from search, and people laying claim to how great of a job at a tactical level each one of them was doing. And it's like, look, if you shout that so much, search person, and they say, you know what, clearly search is driving everything. I'm going to cut off everything, all the TV ads and stuff like that, because clearly that's a waste of money, then you're going to lose all your search traffic, and you're not going to be doing so well at that point. And so that really is really this kind of gut intuition, where I'm kind of saying, like, look, all this stuff is integrated. And that was before anyone was talking about a funnel or any of that stuff. It was just all these isolated and individual tactics where I kept saying, you know what? The end of the day, you're truly to kind of get one person to come through and decide to get to know you and buy something from you. So that really was my first kind of foray into this guy. Because I mean, I wasn't a business major. I didn't have a lot of like business background in that. My focus was always on advertising and on the consumer and all of that. And I go, just this doesn't make sense that we have all these pieces so isolated and trying to manage all that. So that was my first, I would say, gut level decision at starting the company at 25. Just was like,
Wow.
this doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Was there,
So yeah. And then I could
that's,
go into all sorts of other gut things because that's largely, I operate a lot by this intuition and kind of use data to certainly to um, test that, and think through some of the ideas. Is there something here? But usually certainly starts with a gut level assessment of something.
yeah, I mean, you're taking me back to when we would, um, have to working on new launches. We
Yeah.
have to do the research to get the consumer input, and then there's the whole, all right, well, how are you going to launch this, and all the marketing plan inputs we'd call them, and they all really go together,
Yeah.
right? Like there's people
Yeah.
responsible for each facet that are just focusing on their own thing, right? So like
Yeah.
it's even, I mean, the same dynamic plays out when you have like a product line and a brand and you have people competing, they're cannibalizing, they don't care, right? If what
Right.
they launch takes away from something else, but ultimately they all impact one another. So is that it? You're like, hey, this is needs to be
Yeah. It was.
integrated, or what was the initial offer?
Yeah, the whole idea was integration, was all one message threaded through everything because, and I think it's hard for some people kind of to like have to step back into that moment in time, is right there early 2000, like 2000 to 2002 when I was kind of formulating this when we started in 2002. When you look at that, it was log file analysis. You actually had a lot of visibility into what people were doing, not a lot of privacy. People didn't realize how
Okay,
you
yeah.
could see what people were doing on websites one by one. It was weird, but
Really? So you could see their whole journey and
I mean, there were some tools back in the day that you could watch people like click on stuff and move around. So it was pretty wild, and people don't realize kind of how far we've come to kind of
wow.
locking that down.
I didn't know this. That was that performance marketing, all that was very foreign to me back then. So like, could
Yeah.
you know something about that person? Like, would
Oh yeah,
you?
you could see them typing their name into a field.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. And if they did certain stuff, yeah, they used to
That'd be
have.
very useful information.
Oh, you had one
My
called I
God.
remember a brand called Clicktail was out there and you could watch their mouse move. So it was kind of like without eye tracking, it was watching their mouse move and you could watch recorded sessions for people who didn't know they were being recorded. It
Oh my.
was, yeah,
Oh
I mean, that
wow.
was, yeah.
Huh.
So it was a big education, I will say, on consumer behavior, where it wasn't, and that's like you said, it was isolated. So you had these more technical people having this information, using this information, but then having marketers not aware this stuff was there. So you could see, and I remember looking at search traffic, for example. Again, you could see the one terms one person came in on, and then what did they do, for example. And that was a thing I would see commonly. You would see a search behavior, so search thing, and then would see them go down a certain path. And I knew from a marketing standpoint who maybe we weren't connected to because they'd isolated that particular area, going like how you're positioning the company is not how people are finding you and seeing you. And the people who they buy for a completely different reason than what you're presenting when you do your ads or something like that, and trying to have that dialogue like, oh no, that's the website people or that's the technical. And I'm telling you what, that still happes today.
I was
And
just
it
about to
drives
say,
me.
like, I think this still happens. At
Yeah.
least, at least they, you know, where people, their perception and
Hmm.
how they end up buying and
Yeah.
what maybe jazzes them is not what you're
Yeah.
saying. Hey, that might seem like a bonus, but your numbers are
Yeah.
not what you're losing and the money you're spending on the thing that isn't working. You're just getting these people
Yeah.
serendipitously. What about the
Yeah,
money
so you
you're
can
spending
see
where you're not
people
getting anywhere?
coming in on
Yeah.
the way you're positioning something, and then they do a few things because they're looking for something you told them you would sell them and wouldn't find it, wouldn't buy. You'd see people search for something really precise, find it, buy more, like higher volume, and you're trying to get the marketer to talk to the people who govern the website or something like that. And go, you might want to think about how you're positioning because these are the people who are really valuable to you. And again, they were just like, oh, just like that's you guys, that's not us, that we're doing this over here. And I'm telling you right now, to this day, that still happens. Like I said, we have probably less visibility in some ways than we used to. That was so precise, where we had so much quality information that people weren't listening to. And on the other side, like I said, you just have to take that step back. And this is where, like, I love the topic of this. It was like, what are these gut things, this intuition? Oftentimes that's, because you see a pattern and you have this recognition and you feel something, then validate some of the data on it and then kind of reformulate that intuition on it. Cause then there's also like always stepping back and go, well, why that? Because I also worked on a lot. We did some of the first multivariate testing web-based for TurboTax here in town. It was, I mean, huge volume in one compressed time of year. And I remember thinking nothing but intuition, be like, oh, these are the ads, or these are the it was always multivariate testing. So these images, these
Yeah.
buttons, this offer, this thing,
Yeah.
all at once, and you're like, oh, I'm an expert. This is going to be the one that wins. Because again, when you get it all out on it, I mean, we were doing it manually back then. So you had all these campaigns and stuff like that, and homepage concepts all around a conference room.
Oh, I bet.
And of course, at that point, you're betting, right? I think this one's going to win, and I think that one's going to win. Whatever.
Oh,
And I'll
yeah.
tell you, your gut level of being an expert, very rarely we're right. So then you start to calibrate on what people seem to react to. And then again, bring back that pattern recognition and intuition back to the data and asking and taking the next step of why. Like, why? Oh, I thought it was going to be this. Having a hypothesis is critically important
Yeah.
because you see what really happened. You see maybe why your hypothesis wasn't right, but digging into that, and then you go, that's why that's one's winning. And it's not what we necessarily want as a brand either. Is you take a premium thing and you put a price on it that makes it look, or everything on it that makes it look inexpensive. Is that really what you want to do to a premium thing? If you say yes, for right now, they want to buy that because they see the premium thing for less price. But in a year from now, you're just the less price thing. If
I
that,
mean, there's a
and
whole body of, I'm sure you're well aware, of marketing
yeah,
work on the, the short versus the long, right? Like, oh, but that's so interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like similar in our world, you're designing experiments, you're testing ideas and concepts, and you get to a point where there are ingredients of things that I know, there are traits, if you will, that I can look for. But sometimes, when we're wrong, it's interesting when you figure out why you're wrong. There's always something still there in terms of well, then why did we think that would be right? And then I think the decision comes from the two because you have to lead with what you believe in, what you think,
oh yeah,
not just throw things out there and let the
mm,
research do all the talking, right? Like I think it's
no.
a blend, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it is. And I think we have so many more resources to get information. That's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get too much information. It's that analysis paralysis, or, you just have things that turn too many data points, bring things down to some like level of vanilla. And then, which, as they say, is the most complex flavor, but it is, a vanilla labeled that way for a reason. And I think that in other cases, people kind of, throwing darts sometimes, that's risky too. And sometimes you hit that bullseye and it's amazing. And other times, people don't hear a whole lot of stories of the gazillion times that people followed their gut and didn't result in what
Yeah.
they really needed to happen. Because those are the ones that you don't really kind of read about or hear
Mm.
about. So,
Well, I mean, what do we hear? We hear like, well, 80% of new products fail and all the things, and it's actually not true in big companies. They just have the ability to course correct and decide if they want to, right? Like
yep.
if you're small and it's your money and you're starting out, nobody wants to hear. Well, just fill it in and see if it works. No, no, no. You know,
Exactly.
you'd like to know if you're kind of on the right track. Most people think they are,
Yeah.
but again, it's the how they go. It's the one idea becomes a million, and then the one they go with. Is
Yeah,
the plan.
exactly. Yep.
Oh, well, what's so from then to now, I mean, how are things like so information overload? I agree, blessing and a curse. I mean, I think most of the time when a client and a big company comes to us feeling they need information, need help, like they have a ton. They're swimming usually in just a bunch of vague data. It's just
Yeah.
nothing feels quite right. Everything feels meh. But there's a lot there already. And it makes me frustrated because it's like, well, gosh, what a waste, And like we're kind of all to blame. I think when people spend money still feeling lost in the haze. But that to me is a big thing versus, 2 decades ago. There's just so much more information, which is great, but
Right.
also makes it the person who's in the job. Having to call the shots and, lead this brand. It's a lot. I think it's
Yeah.
harder. But what else? I mean, is there, what else, what for
Yeah.
you guys, what's
So, I mean, that's a
different
big
these
part of
days?
figuring out what our role is. So, our role obviously is helping them make good decisions. And so, because of that, vastness of information, how do we create quality signal out of that, and then getting down to some sort of clarity that provides them with the decision to make that is then connected to outcomes that they want. And so I think threading that through, and recognizing that I think realize a lot of people they don't recognize that how threaded that can be. They see a decision point. They don't necessarily see the two or three that are ahead of them, to get to the direction that they're saying, look, I need to hit a particular number, or we need to be at a particular spot at a particular time, because then that really changes the calculus, because I think people try to look at some sort of binary formula of success or failure. And I think what we have to say is, in order to get to point, this success metric that you have that might be, 10 points down the road, what are the next two to get you with some level of direction to that 10th point? Because otherwise you are back and forth and up and down, and you're trying to minimize that tacking effect to that final destination. But rarely is it, A goes right to Z. You have a lot of steps in between. And there's decisions that will take you on or off track that are not necessarily wrong. They're just, increasing the effort or taking a slightly step back, but you can still course correct. So how do you give people a vision for all the decisions that they have to make with the data points that we have? Because that's real hard for people. I mean, this gets into the idea of patience, right? I mean, I think for a lot of big companies that are operating at a quarter by quarter level, or certainly for small, we mostly work with the big ones, but I know for small ones, they live and die by the 6 months of cash they have. And so there's a very different equation if you're just trying to get to 6 months than if you're trying to build something for, 10 years. Um, and helping them make those decisions and recognize, are we headed in the right direction, or are we kind of tacking in a direction that's going to take us off course? So, with the amount of information that we have available to us, that can make that even muddier. And so I think what we can do organizationally is help them feel like they're at least moving in the right direction and communicating for the many stakeholders that they often have. What's the next decision point, and how are we getting to a place where we really need to be, given in using the kind of metaphor of tacking and sailing and whatnot from San Diego, I suppose, might be a bit of an influence there. But the changing of the winds and the traffic in the sea and the tide and all those other things are changing constantly. And none of this stuff is happening in a vacuum, particularly today as things can change so quickly. And I think that's getting today harder and harder, because if you're not paying close attention, four more brands in your category just, probably are launching every couple minutes. It didn't used to be that way. There's a much higher barrier to entry on a lot of things. And for, you know, so many, even CPG, people can go zero to launch in, weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not hard to learn your audience if you're just shooting some Facebook ads out there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, virtual companies. There's a lot of virtual companies right now.
Well, it's, I
Um,
mean, honestly, if you new product and it's, hard up tangible product, like not a bad way to start. I mean, you got to pick a channel and you need to start small. And, it's
yep.
like if you can, you have good messaging. I mean, and you have a website and you can ship some products. Like, it's
Yeah.
the worst thing you do is try to go big right away, right? Like, and then you're,
Yeah. Well,
and
it's interesting. You have the really big companies, which is funny to me too, is that they're like, look, if it's not worth doing, if it's not $1 billion product or brand in the
yeah.
next couple of years, and you're like, oh my God, in other words, you would say, oh, this is a $300 million thing. Not worth it.
Well, then, I mean, at least know your impatience that you're not going
Yep.
to change it. Like I spent about 8 years working on most new to the world launches, but these were companies like P&G getting into something where the whole business model really needs to be different for how you launch, not
Yep.
the thing. It's a behavior change, it's the higher price point, it's a longer
Yeah.
purchase cycle, all the things that are going to make it just weird and different from a consumer attraction standpoint, but then you're trying to shove it in the same place as things, staple products, with the same playbook. And then, by the way, we need these numbers by the end of year one. I'm like, ooh, these things take several years. And yeah, it was an interesting, like, I learned a lot
Yeah.
watching big companies and I was young then, so I didn't have the experience and reps that I have now and studying launches and all things. But like that aside, like watching these big like brands making these mistakes,
Yeah.
like, and thinking, wow, in hindsight, and it's like the kind of the same lack of patience, like lack of realizing what it really takes and how if you reel back to the backstory and some really cool, launch stories, they never start like you're trying to start with a line extension for one of the world's biggest brands. They start
Yeah.
this way, and then they're like, okay, can you really do that? Could this be another brand? Could this be a different format? Could this go in a different
Right.
channel? And the
Yep.
answers are always no. And it's like, okay, well then I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I didn't know to say that back then. I do now. But it was hard to believe these big, like huge multi-billion dollar, like successful brands and these amazing smart leaders. But this is the way this is their playbook. And then they try to shove something new in the same playbook. And I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
see coming from a mile now.
Yeah.
Back then I was so shocked.
Oh yeah. I mean, and
I'm
then you
kind of
get,
learning as I went, to be honest with you. A lot
yeah.
of
Well, one of the other challenges sometimes is sometimes people just get lucky too, and it does work out. So then they're trying to forever figure out what that playbook was, and it's a one of one, and just be happy that you were that lucky that one time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like having launched my own thing and really can empathize, with putting all your the risk. There's nothing like this that
Yeah.
compares in my stresses. Not that to say corporate life isn't hard. I don't
No.
mean that. I mean, there are times I'm kind of like, I could never do what you do. I'll say that to my client. That aside, I think I guess what I'm trying to say is it's tough.
Yeah.
And I think the right word is like if you're a real linear person or you're like literal linear, which one is it's tougher for that person, like you kind of strike gold with something and then it's very, binary, like you mentioned earlier. That is not
Yep.
how this works.
Nope.
It's patterns and going with it and
Yeah.
wow. And things change by the second
Yep.
and imposter syndrome and all the things we feel. It's well, now you got me on a roll. So gosh, it's been so fun talking with you today. We
Yeah.
spent some time even before we started recording, chatting about your side gig. You're creating new things all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
The so I want to ask, just like plug your company for a second. Just go to give the short what we
Sure.
do because I feel like people will be lucky to get to work with you. I mean, the way like you're bringing stress. Yeah, it's like it's almost like we become once you get experience, you're like counselor or you're helping, but you're bringing a lot of strategy to
Yeah.
strategic thinking and like just guidance. So like I could sense it. So tell us, just give us the quickie on
Yeah. So,
your agency.
right. We're all about mature brands and mature categories with complex marketing channels. So the buyer journey is complex. The internal resources are complex. So they're typically like multi-brand or many departments where there's many different, stakeholders. And what we're really built on is creating that clarity from all that complexity of brand and performance channels merged together because we really believe that it's typically you have a buyer and they're trying to go through a complex process with you. And then internally you have all those different stakeholders who are trying to create alignment in a category of which you usually know who your other competitors are and you're fighting for market share. So you got to be precise and be better than the other folks out there. So we're really focused on many, so we want to make sure we have a lot of diversity in our client roster, but that is that commonality. So you're going to have mature brands, mature categories, and making sure that they have that complexity that we can help them navigate.
And are you full spanning like your strategy, we're gonna execute marketing,
Yep.
creative, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we say that, it's really about integration when we talk about integration, integrated brand and performance, but integration with the client as well, because I'm a big believer and there's stuff that they should do, there's stuff that we should do, and
Yeah.
finding spots, because it is about that partnership and we always want to minimize as much complexity as possible. That's why we do believe in it's kind of that how many agencies, how many status meetings, how many things do you really want
Yeah.
to have? Because if we can consolidate some of that stuff, it just makes life a lot easier for brands that are fighting for their, still few percent of market share from the handful of competitors they're facing. So, but again, in a complex buyer journey, whether it's major considered purchase, or, you know, fraught with emotion, we have like medical, like a lot in healthcare and medical device and stuff like that, or we have higher ed. Those are big decisions. Durable goods. We have multi-brand configurations like a Titleist and all their various brands. You have golfers, but they're buying putters and hard goods and ball and wedges and they have to get fit and all that. So when you're dealing with that kind of complexity, you really need a partner that can help you thread through all of it. And that's what we aim to do for people.
Titleist. What a cool client.
Oh yeah, been
I would
fantastic.
assume.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for many years, and they're wonderful to work with as a group.
Oh,
And again, having all those kind of that multi-brand, and there's so much data and knowledge, but they are also people who they very much understand who they are. They
mm,
understand their golfers, and so helping be a partner for them for many years, it's really been so interesting to navigate a system where you talk about complexity. They have brands like you have a Scotty Cameron, which is the putters, and Vokey, which is the wedges. Those are someone's name, and there's Bob Vokey's still around, Scotty Cameron's still around. Like, and then you've got things like the Pro V1, the number one golf ball in all of golf. And those are really when you talk about
yeah.
fraught with emotion, and those are complex. That's somebody's like, that's their legacy. And they
That's
really
their
care.
legacy, right? Like
Mhm.
that's not moving out anytime soon.
No. So,
Uh,
as a partner, you really have to um, embrace all of that,
yeah.
be very careful and stewards of all of that. Meanwhile, help them navigate because it is a business also.
Yeah.
You can't there's a lot of artists out there who are artists for art's sake. They are artists and craftsmen and all that of what they do, but they are also for commercial reasons. They need to deliver high performance, and we need to tell that story that such that people want to buy the product that they have, because it's a fantastic product. It's the best out there. But if people don't know, they don't really get that opportunity to experience that craftsmanship. And so it feels like an important job, which
Yeah.
is nice.
Oh, I love it. Feels good to feel like you're making an impact and just
Oh, for
actually
sure.
providing value, actually helping
Yeah.
people. Gosh,
Oh, yeah.
isn't that what it's
It's,
about?
you go through many eras of the career, right? Where you're kind of like, well, it's not like we're sitting here curing cancer or anything, but
I've said it
also,
many times.
Yeah. However, we have Children's Hospital of Orange County and Rady Children's
Oh,
Health, and we have Dexcom and Tandem Diabetes, and we've got stuff that are in those areas. So you do have a bent sense of that. But then also, I realized we launched several different sports brands. And it's like, you know what? The memories that people have because they went to a game with their
yeah.
family, that's equally as important in a lot of ways, you know? So,
Yeah.
because it's kind of that life worth living sort of situation too. So, I think the other part too is organizationally, hopefully we built we're an independent agency, and I think one of the things is we try to make sure that we've got a wonderful group of people who love to do this job together, and enjoy the daily experience. So, we get to have some fun here, and feel like we're doing it for brands that are, good people and they care about what they do. So the more we can help them deliver that as well, it feels like there is a sense of purpose there, that helpfulness that we like to have.
Oh my gosh, people listening to you want to come work for you. You were mentioning, yeah, I come from a healthcare background, and I'll, if we're in a really stressful, kind of time in the business working with a client, I'll make a joke about, gosh, I've been running around a hospital bed of a trauma kid who just experienced major trauma. And like, why was that not as stressful as this? And it sounds terrible, but it's like, oh my gosh. But we'll talk about, we're not curing cancer, we use that. But at the same time, like you said, my gosh, sports and the memories and the experiences and even food and everything, like,
Mhm.
what that means
Yeah.
for people. I too like music and like, I think sometimes artists in general or athletes, anybody whose role in life is entertain us, it's like they kind of get a bad rap because they're overpaid, blah, blah. I'm like, you know what? Like the power of a song and music and an experience and all these things never like if I met, I've met a couple famous people and I met like an artist, it's like, gosh, never let anybody make you feel like what you're doing isn't important because it's not curing cancer, it's like,
Yeah.
gosh, it's some of the a song meets it'll transport me, it's like
Hmm.
just think when you mentioned sports, I'm a sap about sports, as you know. But,
Yep.
anything that's not it doesn't have to be in the healthcare space or in the, kind of not-for-profit space to make meaning for people. So no,
Yeah.
well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, you got it. Well, I'm always happy to do it. It's lovely getting to know you here.
Yeah.
Hopefully your audience gets something out of what I had to say, and I appreciate
Well,
it.
I think they will. Like I said, they probably want to work with you now. There's definitely some nuggets in here that I
Good.
will imagine using. That is for sure. Beyond, having the show podcast published. So before I close out, somebody wants to get in touch with you. What's the best way?
I start LinkedIn's a great way.
Okay.
Just not Reid Carr, Red Door Interactive. We're pretty easy to find that way.
Okay.
Start there, and then we'll navigate it from that point.
Navigate it. Red Door Interactive.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again. And as a
Yep.
reminder to everybody listening, the show is brought to you by the Vibe Method, which is a process that we use and we teach to innovators and marketers to help make sure they nail a unique customer story and prove it will sell before they go live. To find out more about how we can help you nail your vibe before going live, you can go to gohunch.com. The link to that will be in the show notes. And until next time, always remember the worst thing you can do with a hunch is to ignore it.